Great to be with you. Thank you, Senator Funke. And thank you to Victor High School and to your teachers. Congratulations and thank you for your work. My best friend's a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher. My career path went a different direction, but I've always admired teachers. I had some great teachers at Charlotte High School in the city of Rochester, city school district, I might add, a neighborhood where I live now. My life, my military career is a series of coincidences. I have to tell you that. As far as military, I come from a family of service. My grandfather, grandfathers, great uncles, uncles. My father was a Korean War vet. I had a cousin who, coincidentally, was a crew chief in the H-46 helicopter, the same helicopter I flew in the United States Navy. He was a crew chief in Vietnam in the H-46 helicopter, and he served 2 tours there. And he experienced some very, very interesting things in Vietnam. When I was actually, speaking of coincidence, when I was a kid, there was a toy called the Vertibird. It was fly-by-wire. It was connected to a wire and had controls, and it had a real rotor on top of it, and you could manipulate the controls and fly this helicopter. It only went in a circle because it was attached to a wire, and I used to pick up things off the floor with it, and I would take them to another place, and guess what I did with the H-46 helicopter? I would pick up cargo from a ship and bring it to another ship. So how coincidental is that? I grew up in Charlotte. It's a small village in the city of Rochester. As I said, my family was a family of service, but at the time, I think when 1973 was around, I think I heard that number, Vietnam was winding down. I was in the 6th grade. And if there's one thing that I could say to you today, or that I would like you to take away, is try to filter out the noise. And by noise, I mean all of the chatter that goes around. The last couple of days have been full of noise. We carry these devices. There's a lot of noise on these devices, social media and the like. Try to filter from the noise, if you will. And take time maybe to read a little bit about history and realize that human beings have had to filter out the noise for a very long time. Very, very long time. It's okay. Things are fine. They really are. How I came to service is similar to all these stories. The beauty about going last is you get to hear all these wonderful stories, and it's very similar. It's very similar. I grew up, as I said, in a small village in the city of Rochester, a little hamlet, and it was a pretty quiet place, a fun place. I tried to picture myself in the auditorium at Charlotte High School some years back, listening to somebody on stage and realizing, you better say something that's pertinent. You better say something that maybe they can remember, because otherwise they're just out of class right now. So I try to put myself in your shoes today and just tell you that if you filter through the noise and realize that when I was growing up, it was not popular to be in the United States military at all. As was said today, Vietnam was winding down. It wasn't a popular war. There were a lot of things going on in society, even 10 years before that. A lot of turmoil, a lot of growing pains in the United States, a lot of controversy, but still, we got through that. We'll get through other things, and it's all fine. So how did I get there? I graduated from Charlotte. I graduated when I was 16 years old. There's another thing. Don't be in such a hurry to grow up. Because sooner or later, 30 pounds lighter and a lot of hair, I was sitting in those seats years back. Well, I don't have any hair, and I'm a little heavier than I was. It comes quickly enough, okay? You grow up soon enough, and I've got 2 boys, 27, 22, and they wanted to grow up real fast too, but it comes soon enough. So don't be in such a hurry. It's okay. You'll get here. It's fine. I went to the University of Rochester when I was 16 years old. I wanted to either be a teacher, or later on, after a couple years of school, I realized I really liked the weather. So I wanted to study meteorology. And thankfully, not at the University of Rochester, but SUNY Brockport had a great meteorology program where I studied and got my degree. But all along, while I was at the U of R, I sat next to the Navy ROTC students. And I wondered, could that be me? And I shook my head, no. My GPA my first semester was 1.9. Maybe I didn't pay attention as much as I should, and didn't attend classes as much as I should. But I got my act together, and I was on the dean's list at Brockport. But it took some time and growing up. And I went to SUNY Albany to study atmospheric science, to get a master's degree, to be a meteorologist. And a friend of mine, we were at a snow symposium where I was presenting a paper. I went from a 1.9 GPA 4 years earlier, and I was presenting a paper to a group of scientists. So it can happen. But a friend of mine said, hey, I'm going to join the Navy. I'm going to be a pilot. And I honestly said this to him. I said, well, you're a knucklehead. And if you can do it, I can do it. And I promise you, the Monday after the symposium, it was a weekend, we got back to Albany. And in the midst of studying for a graduate degree in atmospheric sciences, I went to an Air Force recruiter and I went to a Navy recruiter on the same day in downtown Albany. And I said, I want to be a pilot. This was 1985. The Reagan buildup is what it was called. President Reagan said, we're going to rebuild our military. We're going to build 600 ships. We're going to have more airplanes. We need pilots. We need everything. So recruiting was good back then, unlike back in the mid-70s. Anyway, fast forward. The Air Force wanted me as a meteorologist. The Navy said, we'll put gold wings on you, no problem. And I took the deal. 7 years I committed to. I thought I'd be an old man by then. I was 22, and I figured, oh my gosh, I'm going to be old when I'm 29. Well, let me fast forward a little bit further. In 2011, I retired with 26 years, and I had a ball. It was a blast. Did I go to Afghanistan? I sure did, and my son went as an infantry Marine in 2012. What a coincidence that is. I deployed in 2005 and 2006 to Afghanistan, and my son was in Helmand Province in 2012. Who knew that in 1985? So I got to meet Margaret Thatcher. I wonder if in your studies you met or you got to know Margaret Thatcher as the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the first female Prime Minister of Great Britain. A great person. I was in the Pentagon on 9/11. And who knew, after being in the Pentagon on 9/11, that I'd be deployed to Afghanistan in 2005? I didn't know that. And then another coincidence, and I'll just be brief, that who knew that I would retire from the United States Navy with 26 years, come home to Rochester via the village of Brockport, where I went to school, where my dad owned a dairy, family dairy in Brockport, New York. And that's where I was employed for 6 months before I went to be the director of aviation for Monroe County and run a fabulous airport where my dad took flying lessons when I was a kid back in 1966, and I still have his logbooks. And I remember looking at his Air Force uniform in the attic and wondering, could that be me someday? and on and on. It's been a wonderful, wonderful ride. I'm back in my hometown community that I adore, I love, and I get the opportunity to pitch our community and all the greatness about it to the airlines because we want more service at the Greater Rochester International Airport. So I get to actually travel across the country and visit with people who don't know a thing about this community, and I get to tell them all the great things that we're doing so we get more airplanes here to take us to fabulous places and to support the business community. The Navy, the H-46 helicopter itself, which is now retired, gave me the opportunities and to see things, to do things, to explore, to experience, and not all of them were great. I choose not to remember those as well as I remember all the good stuff, but the good stuff was really, really good. I've been to San Diego, California, I lived in Coronado, California, I lived in Germany. My final tour was in Key West, Florida. Not too bad. It was work, but it was not a bad place to live. So I thank you for the opportunity today. Happy Veterans Day to our veterans. And to you, thank you so much for inviting us. And it's very special. I wish I could talk to each and every one of you today individually, but I thank you for the opportunity to do this.